I think as accounting professionals, part of the evolution that we're currently going through is, we went through, let's put everything into the cloud. And then we started talking about workflows and tech stacks. And then we started talking about really streamlining that we use a limited amount of technology and we niche and only work with certain type of clients. And now I think that part of that next phase of the evolution is thinking about your client experience when they're using the technology. And so I think we went almost too narrow in some cases and then didn't set our clients up for success. And I have this story, which I sometimes hesitate to share, but what the heck, I'll share it with you. It was a client experience.
Oh, wow, that's going to be good.
Here's what usually happens is we just start talking just like we were and we don't hit record. And then we do all that talking. And then eventually I'm like, oh,
that's all the good stuff.
Yeah, that's usually the best part of the podcast. Everything in the middle is just boring.
Well, we're going to change it up on this one. This one's not going to be boring.
This is new.
Yes, it's an exciting episode. Please. Hello and welcome. We are all the sons of CPAs. Join us as we question the current state of the accounting and tax industry with the next generation of professionals leading this space. We are the change agents in an industry fraught with money and inertia. Let's begin the Sons of CPAs with your hosts, Jason Ackerman and Scott Scarano.
Great to be here. And our special change agent today. Twyla or Twyla?
Twyla.
Twyla.
Because I was going to say she's the fresh princess, but she's also Prince because she's just one name. We don't even have to say her last name. She's like Prince, or like Madonna. Prince or Madonna. Or
I'll go with Madonna. Yeah. My last name is Verhelst. I do have a last name. Twyla Verhelst is my name.
Ackerman doesn't know how to say anybody's last name.
Literally, I'm an accountant. I do numbers.
Yeah. So let's kind of run with it here. And speaking of run, I heard your husband runs.
He does run. Wow. How did you catch that? I run too, but he runs a lot and he's faster than me. He's running ultra marathons right now.
Oh,
super impressive.
Oh, he's one of those crazies. What's the longest one he's done?
He's done 100 miles. So that's the longest he's done so far. I'm hoping that's kind of where he stops.
Toenails fall off and there's like,
oh gosh,
it's like disgusting.
Sometimes I beg him to not wear sandals so that the socks just stay on and it's all appropriate because his toenails are his feet are a mess.
He's got some gangly feet.
It's messy, but he loves it. And it's been a great outlet for him through COVID and not being able to have some of the things that we like to have in our lives. And he definitely took to running. He's on an adventure to run every street in Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada, where we live. Our city is very spread out. It's a huge city. And so he went on that path of trying to accomplish this multi-year project of every single street in Calgary. So he's on
how many streets are there and how many has he done?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I should be a numbers person.
What percentage?
When it comes to his project, he's right around, I do know he's right around 50%, but it's a multi-year endeavor. It's such a spread out.
Do you have a forecast of this and when he's going to hit each street, or is he just going, hitting each one?
So it's like budget to actuals, but for his running project, it's like, are you on target here, or should we be picking up the pace?
Off target, yeah. How many followers does he have just on this little run thing, though?
You know what? He has more followers on Strava than he does on regular social. He's not a big social media guy. He did set up social accounts for it, but he's super not into that. He's really just doing it for his own. Strava is
it's a running app.
It's like, and for people use it for biking too. And it's almost like their own little social media environment.
Finish a run and you're like,
it'll pop up. Yeah. So
I'm not a big social media person. Like I'll go on LinkedIn here and there, but I use this golf when I have 10,000 followers on it. And I don't know what, I'm not even very good at golf. I'm terrible.
Yeah. It's something like that, but it's specifically for running and biking, and I'm not on it.
Is that kind of like Untapped? So it's almost like the running version of Untapped then, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what Untapped
for beer. That's for beer.
I know about it. All three of us were on Drink While You Think, so you should know that too.
They were ranking.
I'm in the club.
I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know you were supposed to actually drink while you think. It wasn't. I don't know. I'm not a big drinker.
You had wine, Twyla. You had some wine.
I had wine. Yeah. And I didn't rank it on Untapped.
She's She's a classy
That
lady.
is
What's the
classy.
wine scene like?
Ooh, the
Yeah,
Canada wine
we
scene.
we actually have two wine regions. So the interior of BC. So I live in Alberta, and so the next province over is British Columbia, and the interior of British Columbia is a big wine region. It's got amazing wineries out there. And then the Niagara region. So Niagara on the Lake in Ontario, just north of New York, that's a big wine region as well. We have really good wine here.
My grandfather is from Winnipeg, Canada, a
Ah,
province over from you in Manitoba.
two provinces over, but I grew up in Manitoba. So I grew up about 3 hours from Winnipeg.
I've never been. I will go one day. He was an orphan.
You should.
So
Wow.
his parents actually died in the flu epidemic of like 1911, kind of like full
Mhm.
circle where we are today
Mm-hmm.
with COVID. Wild.
Wow.
I love Canada. Canada's great. Okay, can we
This
start
is his first international episode.
for our US people like myself? Tell us the biggest difference in like the accounting world, US compared to Canada.
Technical difference in terms of like rules, or do you just mean
No, like
general-
Answer for
US
you.
is more tax focused because our tax is like much more complex. I think. I don't know.
To me, right now in North America, the quickest area that stops using checks is more advanced than the other. And so, a big signal to me as to how far along we've come with the evolution is, are we still using checks, or are we further along? But I would say actually there's differences in the evolution of the industry inside of Canada and the US. We're all behind though when it comes to comparing us against Australia, the UK. And when I started really engaging with the accounting industry inside of the US, I noticed that there was some more traditional routes that ran a little bit deeper than they do here in Canada.
I noticed your voice
And
got a little bit slower too. Yeah. Traditional.
and,
You're talking to
and
two
so
Southern boys too. So
I'm just throwing it out there that there's definitely some traditional accounting still at play in both regions, but we're close. We're all in this race together.
And what about CPA in Canada compared to the US? Is there any difference?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's differences there. I mean, Canada's gone through a big evolution with having 3 designations and then going to 1 designation, and that certainly has been its own little evolution in and of itself. And whereas you always had CPA and we're solid in that one track, but I think that there's a lot of differences in terms of educational components, the courses, and the workload that goes into it. But at the end of the day, if you're still wanting to go the traditional track of accounting, it's a grind in both places. And the regulations in both places have got their goods and bads in terms of maintaining your designation and trying to continue to evolve as an accounting professional. But from what I see on both sides of the border, there's a lot that needs to come along with the evolution that we've had in terms of the education and the learning that goes inside of becoming a modern CPA instead of a traditional CPA. There's gaps there. There's work we have to do.
So what's the work we have to do?
I just feel like there's so much opportunity for accounting professionals to be better educated in terms of what it's going to be like now in the industry. The education hasn't evolved as quickly as the industry has evolved. The education on both sides still seems to be quite grassroots and evergreen, I should say, and not teaching these up and coming accountants about the technology that they're really going to be needing to embrace in order to be a really good accountant. And I believe that accounting and technology has collided head to head, and you no longer are just a accounting specialist or very good in the areas of tax or audit or whatever aspect of accounting you're really diving into. You have to have the technology to go with that. One doesn't work without the other anymore. And I don't think that the education and the training really aligns with that.
Yeah, we got a big issue in the US with basically the schools. They teach it like it's 1960 and we're building cods on a machine.
Exactly. You have accounting firms now with engineers that are building their own software to better support their team and their clients.
Yeah.
And that's not part of their education. And, if I was doing things all over again myself, I would learn how to code alongside of taking my accounting education, because there's just so much overlap between the two now. And I don't think that either side of the border has got that piece of the education figured out yet.
What
Code. Wait. You're talking about software coding, right? Because
Yeah.
you are also at the helm of something else, like besides like I kind of want to hear more history, right? I want to see how you got to FreshBooks. Unless we're still talking about
Well, I have
Canada
one more
versus
question
US.
about Canada.
Let's go. Let's
What
go.
about the government? So is the government, like, it seems like like in the US, our government is so far behind, like we're still faxing. Like, is the government modernizing any kind of how it is in the UK?
Yeah, no, the government's not as modern here as it is in the UK. They still are pretty archaic in their processes and how you communicate with them and how you deliver information to them. There's maybe a slight edge that we have in terms of some online portals that we can use, that not everything has to go through fax, but they're still using faxes, and it's still pretty old school and not as advanced as the UK by any stretch.
Makes me feel better that there's another country like us. So we feel your pain. Down south of the
We're
border.
pretty similar. We're pretty similar in that respect. Yeah.
Well, it's not going anywhere any faster either. I mean, it's starting to get slower anyway. So yeah.
So why'd you go into accounting?
I went into accounting, honestly, as my plan B. I thought I'd get my accounting designation just to have as a backup plan, that if my entrepreneurial endeavors didn't go the way that I thought they would or should, that I could always be an accountant. At that time, that was over 20 years ago. And I thought the world always needs accountants, so I'll always have a job. Although that is still true, it isn't the type of accounting that I thought was always
Well, you
going to
blended
be.
all of the parts of the flywheel together. You're, entrepreneur, you're an accountant, and also coding software. Maybe not, you said you wish you could do that, but
I don't actually code. I should never have.
so,
Mhm.
So it was
Yeah.
plan B.
Yeah.
So what was plan A? Like, what were you trying to do as an entrepreneur back then?
To be honest, I didn't really know where that was going to lead me. I grew up in an entrepreneurial home in Manitoba, and
Shout out.
my parents were always, we lived basically right beside our business, and I knew that I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, business related. I just didn't know yet what that would look like. And I thought, well, if I can't figure that out, or I'm not sure, knowing accounting will never be a miss, no matter where my career takes me. And I've definitely had a very meandering career. I will be the first to admit that. If somebody looks at my LinkedIn, they might think, gosh, she couldn't make up her mind. But it was because I was always just so open to what would be next, as opposed to thinking when I was 18 years old that I knew how I was going to retire and what the path to retirement looked like. I didn't know that. And so it left me in a spot where I was just always open to seeing what's next. I knew I wanted to get my designation. I wanted to have those credentials in that area of expertise always. But from there, it just unfolded. And like I said, I avoid tax as much as possible. I took the track of a certified general accountant here in Canada, which means all my experience was in industry, never at the firm. So I didn't spend any time in audit. I didn't spend any time in tax. I grew up inside of an accounting department in corporate accounting. And that fueled more of my understanding and hunger for working with businesses and inside of businesses.
We've got a paid ad read here. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. The Sons of CPAs are about to blow your mind and get us one step closer to automating the book-to-tax nightmare that we all have experienced.
Tally 4 is built for tax professionals. Grow your team with cross-team coordination and time-saving smarts.
Okay, hand typing stuff into your tax return causes errors, spending a lot more time. Doing that, you're wasting your time and your staff's time. You need to get on Tally 4 to help you save time and reduce errors. You're doing it all on Excel, and then you're going into the tax return and typing it.
So you guys use Xero, right? And how are you currently doing this?
Yeah, it's a lot of manual entry. Now, if you use Tally 4, it's 4 seconds from 0 to Tally 4, codes all the transactions on the trial balance and puts it into the tax system.
For us, at our firm, we used to use Thomson Reuters Accounting CS. And that would automatically import into the return, but it was actual write-up where we were keying in transactions from bank statements. We were spending hours and hours just to get the accounting data in there. So when we switched over to Xero, it saved us a ton of time for the last 5 years, but it wasn't integrated with the tax software. We say that we're a modern firm, we say we're future forward, and we're manually keying stuff into the tax return now. Exporting maybe a CSV from Xero.
Like a loser.
Yeah, like a loser, and importing data manually.
Don't be a loser like Scott. Use Tally4.
So running a modern firm that we have hand keying P&Ls is childish or silly. I don't even know how much time we're spending on that, but I know that we will save a ton of time when we move over to Tally4.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, it's going to save your firm between 30 and 45 minutes of tax return. So multiply that by how many tax returns you do, that's a lot of time and money that you're saving. If you use a product like UltraTax, Lacert, Drake, CCH Access, or Pro Systems, you're probably doing some form of work papers or spreadsheets outside of your Xero, QuickBooks, Sage platforms that manually enter the data into your tax platform, or creating a separate upload.
It is time-consuming and error-prone. Transform this process from what used to take an hour down to only 10 minutes.
The reason we adopt tech at our firm is to create more time and space to better serve the clients and less time being the middleman carrying information from one cloud tool to another.
And for those of you that are already familiar with integrations, think of this as the Zapier from book to tax.
Award-winning Tally4 uses bank-grade security in the cloud, and it works with any accounting software. Increase capacity without increasing labor costs and time spent in the office.
Tax experts unite and become tax heroes.
Skip the waitlist and sign up in less than 5 minutes at tally4.com/VIP. That's TALLYFOR.com/VIP.
Thank you, everybody.
So you're working in these businesses and then you decide to go out on your own and form kind of a startup?
While I was getting my designation, I worked in corporate accounting. And then once I got designated, I instantly got a job as a controller of a manufacturing company. I spent a year inside of that manufacturing company and then was faced with the ethics question where the president of that company was doing something very unethical. And I was a brand new CPA and I was like,
tell us what it is. Let's go through this.
No. We don't need to go down that path. But it very much was a thing of wanting to mess with another shareholder's valuation and how much he owed versus she owed. And it was messy. And I was like, I don't want to get dragged down to some at the very start of my accounting career. The last thing I want is for my reputation.
It's an integrity test.
It really was.
Early. Somebody was testing you and you passed.
It was the ethics and integrity test through and through. And so I resigned from that role just to get myself outside of that circumstance. And then did some entrepreneurial ventures. I started a business and then from there grew that business. I sold that business. Then I got into some recruiting for accounting professionals.
What was that business?
The business I had was a mortgage brokerage, but I set it up from day one as I wasn't doing the mortgages. I had an office and I hired mortgage brokers. And what worked well to my advantage was that I was an accounting professional. So people felt like they had the expertise of an accountant along with a mortgage broker. So it was a really interesting combination that served me very well in setting up that business and then training mortgage brokers to be successful under this brokerage. So I did that.
And then you sold that.
Sold that. Yeah, I sold that. And then I got into, wasn't sure what was going to be next for me. So I got into doing some recruiting for accountants. So it was only recruiting accountants for corporate environments. And that kind of reintroduced me back into accounting and corporate world again after having gone off and doing a little bit of an entrepreneurial venture. Then from there, I started up a small bookkeeping accounting advisory firm with a business partner. And so that business partner was a friend of my husband's. And when we connected, we just talked about the idea of starting up a firm that really was an advisory firm, but we didn't call it advisory because we didn't even know what advisory was at that time. We were basically doing the outsourced controller, CFO work, also bookkeeping, payroll, and a tax that we needed to do just for the clients that we had on these other engagements. And we ran that and scaled that. And then inside of that experience, we were doing a lot of this advisory work And that's what prompted the start of our software startup, which is a cash flow forecasting tool, because we had embraced cloud technology where we were using all the systems and the workflows. But when it came to cash flow forecasting, it was very manual. We couldn't find a system that was efficient and automated the way the rest of the workflow was. So we started a cash flow forecasting application, really to solve our
I
own pain points.
absolutely love the branding. This is still your company?
Yeah, so
So
I'm still involved with the company, but I'm pretty distanced from it. My business partner then took that on and has run with that since. And yep, it's still in existence. It's still an app. It's connected to QBO and Zero
just at the top, the
and
name and
doing
the
some good
branding
things.
are my favorites. Like I just, it was always imprinted in my head because I
We're
love,
big branding guys here. We're all about
Mhm,
branding.
I'm all about the branding, really. Like the colors, the gold and the helm, like all of it
mhm.
fits. Like I think it's very good. Sorry, that's
Well, we did work with a branding company and a marketing company to help with that. And yeah, we were pleased with the work that they did with us. We did a deep dive on what is it we're trying to achieve and who are we trying to attract, like all the things you should do inside of choosing a brand, not just going on to Canva and being like, oh, that one looks good and using it. This was some thought into it. So I appreciate that you like it.
well, I judge all books by their covers, and I definitely judged Helm. And then we could get into like the new FreshBooks branding because I actually really like the FreshBooks branding.
So now you're the head of accounting relationships at FreshBooks? I don't know if
Yeah.
that's
So
that title.
yeah, my role is head of the account channel. That's my
The
actual
Fresh
title. But
Princess. She's
So
the
what?
Fresh
So how
Princess.
did you get
Yes.
involved with FreshBooks?
yeah, so when we were figuring out which integrations we were going to build for Helm, we got connected with FreshBooks and learned about their endeavor to create a new accountant channel. And so that kind of raised the awareness for us that they were wanting to start to support accounting professionals unlike any way that they ever had in the past. They have tried in the past and were unsuccessful, and they were going back to the table again to carve this out and create an opportunity to support accounting professionals who want to collaborate with their clients using FreshBooks. So we learned about that through Helm. And at the time that I learned about it, they were looking for their head of their accountant channel. I was actually sending people to them saying, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to this person? And in amongst all of that, we had gone through a round of fundraising inside of Helm. We had gone to market with Helm. We had received some exceptional feedback around what needed to change inside of the product with Helm. So we decided to take the round of fundraising and invest that in the product. And as I said, I'm not a software person. I'm not actually a coder. I am more of a person who likes to support accounting professionals with using the technology to create better client experiences. And we knew that that side of it, so that marketing and that relationship side with accounting professionals needed to be put on pause while we dove deep into the product and invested our time and our energy into the product. And so because of that, I really was like, okay, I either need to get deep with the product or I need to go back to our accounting firm, which was still alive and running at that point. But was it that, okay, I should take this time now to scale that, or should I do something different? And because of the exposure I had to working with the accounting industry all across the globe with Helm, I mean, we would have partners from Australia and the UK as well as North America, that I had this exposure to other professionals who are really trying to do this advisory work and really trying to change up the way that they were working with their clients. And I learned that I had some information that was valuable to others and that wasn't intentional as to why I ever started to do that or I was vocal about it, but it all just started to unfold. And I got really interested in supporting other accounting professionals and really working closely with them. So those other two endeavors that I mentioned inside of Helm or our accounting firm really weren't as attractive to me because I knew I'd need to pull away from the industry in order to focus on those things. So instead, at that point in time, I was like, I went back to FreshBooks and said, I have a different idea. What if I run your accountant channel and I head that up and that I carve out your partner program and I build that team? And it very quickly unfolded from there. And here I am a year and a half later, still as the head of the
Well, that's
accounting
really
channel at
cool. Like you
FreshBooks.
own that decision. Like they came to you to find somebody and you said, you know what? I want to do this. And you did it. That's so dope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It worked out well.
I think I'm going to ask I'm going to ask what your North Star is in all of this, because it sounds like you've been at the helm and you've been steering the ship in all different directions. Are you going toward the North Star always? Or do you feel like you've changed direction a few
Oh,
times?
I've definitely changed direction. I very much am somebody who I think listens to what others are saying and tries to figure out, well, what can I do to support that, collaborate with that, enhance that, to keep pushing forward with this evolution in the industry. I mean, when I joked about who's using checks and who's not, it's bigger than that. It's more about what can I contribute to the evolution at large that we're having inside of this industry. And
Change agents.
where's my
Hello,
expertise
change
best
agent.
valued, right? I think if I've got something, whether it's sometimes my expertise is just a drive. Like I am really fortunate to have such an entrepreneurial background, and my parents who were such hard workers that sometimes my expertise just comes with as shows up as a motivation to get something done. Or inside of FreshBooks, I mean, the past year and a half, we've had a lot of change and needed to go through, change in our CEO, a round of fundraising. I had to present the entire case to the board as to what this channel should really look like. And it was a lengthy process. And what got me through that was A, I saw the opportunity, and B, I can be pretty patient while also motivated. And I'm not typically a patient person. I give credit to my daughter for making me a patient person at times, but I'm willing to put in a lot to get something done, even if somebody doesn't meet me halfway. Maybe they only meet me 10%. All right, let's see what we can do to rally around more people, or rally up more people, get more community, and get this over the finish line, because we believe in what the outcome will be. And so I've definitely pivoted, and I will continue to always have my ears open to what can I do to contribute to this industry the most. And that's what I liked about the idea of coming to FreshBooks, was my reach would be further, and I'd be able to support more people and contribute to more people's success in working with small businesses. So that draws me in and gets me up each morning, is that opportunity to contribute in
That is why I want to do this podcast. Wait, I am doing it, but that's why we do this. Like this, I respect that. I like all those reasons. That's cool.
Can I tell my FreshBooks story?
Yes,
Tell your
please.
FreshBooks story.
Okay, so
did you send an invoice out of FreshBooks?
We use FreshBooks for our firm entirely until last year when we switched to practice ignition. So we were heavy fresh. We just outgrew it. We were setting it up. So we started in 2013, and your partner program, then you could you took like an hour-long session, and then you became FreshBooks certified, and then you got a free FreshBooks for life. And at the bottom of FreshBooks, it would say the number of days that you had left that were free. And I guess like that's how the software worked. So on the bottom of ours, it said like 149 million days left, and we calculated it was like 75,000 years that we had left on FreshBooks. We've since changed that, and we had to pay, which was fine, but we always thought that was funny. But you know why we switched to FreshBooks originally was it was the first one that could do automatic credit card payments every month. So like none of the softwares, you could take a credit card payment, but they couldn't store the credit card and automatically charge it. Xero couldn't do that. QuickBooks, this was like 2013, 2014 range. And FreshBooks could do that at the time. They had an early Stripe integration, and it made it super easy. And so we used FreshBooks literally until this year when we switched. Just we got too big. But FreshBooks is a great.
So the way this one's going to work is they gave us a script. We're going to read a script, and then we're going to talk about our experiences. Let's go. More than 5,000 accounting and bookkeeping firms across the world of all sizes use Practice Ignition to send powerful online proposals, to get paid automatically, and manage ongoing client engagements in one place.
With access to hundreds of ready-made templates with built-in digital signatures and engagement letters, you'll feel confident knowing you're delivering a clear scope of work.
Plus, by offering your clients easy upfront payment options, you'll be able to free up your cash flow that gets reconciled into your QuickBooks or Xero automatically.
So what'd you use before Practice Edition?
Oh, so we had a PDF that we would put together, and
You were so proud of that PDF too.
I was so proud of the PDF. The PDF actually was just a display of your 3 options, but it would take forever to put together. And it wasn't just that. We had 2 different payment systems. We had to keep up with AR and Xero. We weren't really using Xero to send all the proposals. Some proposals were in Xero. It was all over the place. What about you?
What a mess. We did everything on Word documents and sent it through EchoSign. And then we had to set up a bill. We were actually using FreshBooks to bill.
So I think for us, we've been on Practice Ignition for about 2 years, and I've referred to it in the past as the heart of our tech stack, more or less, because before somebody's a client, they're in something else. They're in HubSpot. And then after they're a client, it pushes from Practice Ignition to 2 different spokes. It goes to Xero, it goes to Carbon. Because Xero and Carbon don't talk to each other, this is perfect because it keeps things unified.
Yeah, and it just saves you a ton of time and keeps everything standard. And if you need to do a new proposal for a new client, you just think of a client that is similar to, copy it, put in their stuff. It takes 2 minutes, send it out to them. Then you're getting an ACH credit card in 2 minutes. You're getting paid.
There's a ton of customization too. When you want to put together a proposal, you can do those 3 options like I was doing on my PDF. You can do that. You can create templates. You can have variable pricing. You can have fixed pricing. You can have hourly rates. Anything, the way that you price, you can do that in Practice Ignition.
Yeah, and I'll just tell you from our perspective, we used to have $400,000 of AR all the time. Now we have $20,000 of AR. It's just
So
cut
do we.
down on our AR. So clients are pains in the asses. But now Practice Ignition solves for most of that. So for a limited time only, Practice Ignition is offering 25% off your first year. If you're ready for a single source of truth for your clients, head on over to Practice Ignition and use the code to get started for free. I don't know what our code is.
We don't have a code.
We'll just assume it's Sons of CPAs.
Yeah. If the code is Sons of CPAs, type that in there. If not, just mention us, I guess.
Yeah. But FreshBooks is a great product. And another thing I really loved about FreshBooks, not a sponsor, could be with how I'm talking.
Not a sponsor, but could be.
Your support was always amazing. You could call and like someone would pick up within 3 rings. And the rumor was, and you can confirm this, if it got to like 6 rings, it would ring to like the founder back then. Is that true?
Wow, I don't know, but I will ask Mike next time I talk to him if that is true. I do agree with you. FreshBooks has amazing support. Every person who starts at FreshBooks, no matter where you start in the org, you spend 1 month in support. So I spent my first month at FreshBooks in support. And so you get a real
Super
feel
smart.
for
I love that.
what do our customers need? What is a product like? It's a great spot to be. You have a real appreciation for that support team and the work that they do. So we do have great support. But I love your story. And, FreshBooks really was ahead of its time when you think about it. FreshBooks started in
it was way ahead of its
2003.
time.
In
Yeah.
2003, it was always on the cloud. So it was just that when it started, it was only invoicing. And so for all of us on this call, I mean, we want more than just invoicing, but invoicing on the cloud exclusively in 2003 was ahead of its time. And then a lot of the features that evolved from being an invoicing platform were also ahead of its time. Now we're playing, I'll call it a little bit of catch up with the other side of the accounting equation. And that's part of the role that I have with working with the product team really closely as to what do we need to evolve there. We are full GL now, but we still have work to do. And, these early stages of the partner program, we don't say we just want your feedback. We actually need your feedback. The feedback from our partners is actually carving our roadmap. And it's really cool when we see feedback from a partner come right into the product. And that's going to be the next few years of our lives here at FreshBooks, is seeing that feedback actually come to fruition and being part of that experience in the software that accounting professionals care about. And they'll continue to enhance the client experience inside FreshBooks, but selfishly, I care about the accounting partner experience inside of FreshBooks, and that's the journey that we're on right now. Business owners love FreshBooks, and it sounds like you had a similar experience until you outgrew it, that you loved it. So we're on this path of, okay, we're going to have accounting professionals love it just as much as your clients love it.
Yeah, I feel like FreshBooks didn't want any respect from the accounting community at first, and now There's
Well,
room
it was
for a third.
invoicing. It did invoicing super well, and that's what was amazing about it. Like,
But it
was
also
quick.
does, it is like whenever I talk to other accountants, they always talk about the GL and balance sheet or whatever it is. I didn't want to work in there, but it was so easy to use and easy to get on there. And no, I'm being real. Like this was probably years ago. I'm not sure when, but we obviously went to zero. It
This
was
is when Scott bullshits about the one time he maybe used FreshBooks.
may possibly. I'm not even, yeah, I might be bullshitting. I might not be. Honestly, I don't even remember. There's room for a third in here in this space. And a lot of us didn't go to QuickBooks because it wasn't good online. Right now, QuickBooks and Zero, they're one's blue, one's green, it's one or the other, but we need a third player. Like there's some people that are probably still on QuickBooks that don't want to be. And when they leave, they already had an option to go to Zero and they probably didn't choose it. They need a third. We need a third. What can we do to get people onto FreshBooks? What is it about the GL that they're talking about? I don't even know.
Well, one thing that I'll say that bullshit or not, I was part of the original FreshBooks Accountant Network. Jason, probably the one that you're talking about, where you got the free subscription for life. And I remember at that time, that I saw it and I'm like, this is great for an invoicing platform. I don't need an invoicing platform. I need accounting software. And I never put one single client onto FreshBooks. And I'm not hesitant to admit that. But here's something that's really cool that a lot of people don't know is that in 2016, FreshBooks launched an entirely new platform. And that was the start of it actually being a GL. And it wasn't until 2018 that it actually got financial statements. So balance sheet and P&L, that's only been a few years. And so we've come a long way in a few years. And now that we've got this carved out partner program and the dedication from our executive team behind it, and of course our recent announcement of our recent round of fundraising, that we're ready. We're so ready to be on this journey and do this right, because FreshBooks didn't always do a good job of supporting accounting professionals. They were kind of this afterthought. And now with this evolution in the industry, accounting professionals are no longer an afterthought. We are part of the process with business owners. And if FreshBooks doesn't do this now, like, what does that look like for business owners and accounting professionals that are trying to collaborate on the platform together? It just won't be successful. So I'm excited that we're in this spot. We all here recognize it at FreshBooks that we're ready, and we've never been as ready as we've been today. And I keep saying the line in here at FreshBooks is we're just getting started. And that's a beautiful place to be in.
Yeah, no,
So
I
if
get
you're
that. You got some good runway to work off of and a couple of good models of Zero and QuickBooks. But
So for an accountant who hasn't looked at FreshBooks in a while and thinks of it as an invoicing software, what's changed?
Well, firstly, that it is a full GL, that we do have a bank feed and we've got financial statements and we have journal entries. That's the biggest changes that we've got. We've also got more integrations than we had before, so you can connect it to some of your other software. Not Practice Ignition yet, but there's other ones.
I'm done with
coming.
Zero. I'm already on board. Where do I sign?
We're right in the thick of building. We've actually dubbed it Project Beast. We're in the middle of building a very robust certification training, and the feedback from partners has been great. It's different than I saw before. I'm interested. It's easy to use, but it is different. So make me a product expert, and then I'll feel more confident starting to use FreshBooks with my clients, because I want
So
to be
what makes it
an
different?
expert. To be honest, when you first look at FreshBooks, it feels like there's nothing there. That's what I initially thought when I opened up FreshBooks a year and a half or 2 years ago now. When I was talking to FreshBooks and we were looking at integrating with them, it's like there's nothing here. And then when you actually pull back the layers or go under the hood, you realize that there is some things there, and that actually the invoicing side and the proposals and the estimates and the time tracking and rebillable expenses is extremely robust, but very user friendly.
Is it because there's no dashboard?
Feels different.
Because when I go into QuickBooks or when I go into Zero, you see the dashboard and you can go to different places, but you're not in just the screen. I felt like FreshBooks was almost like Wave, in that you just went in and it was just there. There was no dashboard.
Yep, that's fair to say. It does dive you right in, because you think about it, it really was built for owners, and owners just want to get in and do their work. Yeah. And so it's just a different philosophy that was built on, and the UX that has gone into FreshBooks just feels different. It's not necessarily difficult, but it's just different. So we're in the throes of this big, big beast of a project where we're creating an extremely robust certification. It will not be an hour, I can tell you that much. You will leave this certification training as a product expert. In fact, when I was reading through the scripts, I was like, I didn't even know that FreshBooks did that. Like, it's going to be an extremely
Cool.
thorough certification, and then a resource to always go back to when now you got a client who uses proposals. How the heck do I do that? It'll always be there at your fingertips. So I'm excited about that.
feel
I
like
think that's an interesting
yeah.
point because, like, the biggest difference, well, a reason why accountants don't like Zero a lot is because it is different than what they're used to. They're used to doing a monthly bank reconciliation at the end and putting in the balances and stuff, and they don't get why like Zero doesn't have that because it's just a different interface and different way of thinking about it. And I think that's good that like we have companies that are willing to think about the way we've done work for 550
Yeah.
years and
Yeah.
maybe modernize it a little bit.
Well, and where FreshBooks shines the brightest is in use cases where your client does do a part of that workflow. I think as accounting professionals, part of the evolution that we're currently going through is, we went through, let's put everything into the cloud. And then we started talking about workflows and tech stacks. And then we started talking about really streamlining that we use a limited amount of technology and we niche and only work with certain type of clients. And now I think that part of that next phase of the evolution is thinking about your client experience when they're using the technology. And so I think we went almost too narrow in some cases and then didn't set our clients up for success. And I have this story, which I sometimes hesitate to share, but what the heck, I'll share it with you. It was a client experience.
Oh, wow, that's going to be good.
It was a client experience that I'm not proud of. I mean, we had this motto inside of our firm where we were trying to create a client experience that your client can't live without. And we got that from one of our clients who was referring new people to us. And we asked them, we said, what do you say to your friends who are entrepreneurs that you keep referring to us? Because we're trying to figure out our marketing, how do you sell advisory? And that client said, I don't actually even know what you do. I just know that I wouldn't survive without you. So it's like, okay, this is our motto now. Create a client experience that your client can't live without. I had a client that I did not do that for. And in hindsight, it's so clear what happened, but I really messed up when it came to the technology that I was using with him. We had a single platform, an accounting GL that we were using for at least 90% of our clients. And we were very much in that mode of, you use the tech stack that we use. This is the workflow that my team knows. We don't venture away from that. You want to work with us, you got to use this technology. The challenge was he was an IT consultant and he had billable hours and he also had rebillable expenses. And he despised using our technology. In hindsight, it's so clear. He told us, he's like, I don't even enjoy logging into this. And at the time I was like, too bad, that's the system we use. If you want me to do your cash flow and your advisory work, you have to invoice out of the software that I've chose. And it was a friction point every single month. We would get to, here we are on the 7th. Hey, Twyla, am I going to have enough cash to be able to pay my employees on the 15th? And I would say, well, have you invoiced? Have you done your August invoicing? Oh, no, I haven't done my invoicing. I'm like, well, I don't even know then if you're going to have enough money because you haven't even invoiced for August. So how am I supposed to project your cash if I don't even know what you've got in the pipeline? And then a day or so later, he would message me at about 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. How do you put this router onto this invoice? And at the time I was like, dear God, just use a software already. And I didn't enjoy getting his text or his message. I'm sure he didn't enjoy messaging me as his nagging mom is feeling like a mom.
Honestly, it sounds like he would have been
It was a
texting or
mismatch.
messaging somebody else. He would have been if it wasn't you, he'd be messaging somebody.
Let her
else.
finish.
What I see in hindsight is he had a terrible client experience with the technology. And even though it was so familiar to us, he struggled to use the tech. And I didn't do a good job of recognizing that and then setting him up for success to get his invoices out the door. The most important thing in his business, get those darn invoices out the door and collect our cash. And he was I was in the way with the technology I put in front of him. And I see that now in hindsight. Again, not a story I'm proud of because it was a mistake and something that I don't like to necessarily share, but it's a true story and one that I think where I was going with this is the evolution of the industry now is can't we have technology that both your client and your team enjoys working with? I believe that these technology has the capability to be inspiring and that client wants to do their invoicing. They're so excited to do their invoicing. FreshBooks has that. When we talk to clients or to customers that use FreshBooks, they enjoy invoicing. They have this high as an entrepreneur that I invoiced, I collected, I did what needed to be done in order to actually make money. And if we don't put them with the right technology, you won't create a client experience they can't live without. You won't be able to do advisory because they're not completing their piece of the workflow. So where FreshBooks shines the brightest, which is where I was going with this long story, is that it shines brightest when your client is needing to do that front end piece of the workflow. You give them technology that they can use efficiently, effectively, even enjoy using. And then you pick up and do the rest of the workflow that is more accounting, not their area of expertise, and then have some advisory services added onto that.
That's the next phase and the next step in all of this technology boom that we've had. The next step is figuring out ways that we can all use it together and not have to compete over well, I always feel like there's competing views on a lot of software because we hear from the vendors a lot and we're talking to a vendor right now. But then again, like that is the next step.
I want to know what would you have done differently with that client?
I would have recognized that there was technology in the way. And, I think
Would you have changed the technology? Would it
Yeah, he wasn't set up for success. And so that technology got in the way of the entire engagement. It didn't end in the way that I wanted. I never did do advisory for him because I couldn't. And I would have put him with somebody who was prepped to do that. And that's something I love about our industry now is that we're willing to share, like do some swaps of leads. And at the end of the day, nobody is served well when you're working with a client that's not a good fit for you. So I know that there's a time and a place when you should introduce that technology, and there's other times in your firm where you're like, please, dear God, the last thing I want to do right now is to learn a new piece of tech. I understand that. And so if I wasn't ready to start to use a new piece of tech in my firm at that time, then I would want to put him with somebody who was, or I would now, like if I think about 2021, I would take a deep dive into why am I not prepped to do that? Is there something that is not, I haven't systematized or haven't put enough procedure around in order to introduce a new piece of tech? Why do I have to only use this tech stack in order to be successful? And so I think I would probably do some deeper dives there. But clearly in hindsight, now I see that it was a technology barrier.
I think a lot of firms too, like talking about this and picking, I think firms and clients need to pick and then know their place in the market, like know which apps they're going to use and own that space. Cause then where you said like people can use each other for different resources. Okay. I know this firm that does this, that works very well with this type of client, or I know this one that works in this vertical, or this one uses this software. Like if you own your place and get to know a lot of other firms too. And, Now, I don't know if FreshBooks is trying to be everything to everyone, or if there's a certain type of client and the place and type of firm and place that it fits in the market too.
Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you that we're not trying to be everything for everyone. And even when I see foresight on our roadmap, not just Accountant Channel, but FreshBooks in general, we don't plan to be everything for everyone. And what I like about FreshBooks is I almost kind of use the analogy of they've stayed in their lane and widened the shoulders. So when it comes to something like manufacturing, we're not a good fit. When it comes to something heavy assets, I mean, Xero does their asset module really well with depreciation. We don't even have an asset module. So
how about this? I got a client that I talked to today that might be a good fit, right? So I got a client that has his own little business. He just left another construction place he worked for, started his own little construction. He's not going to have a lot of equipment or anything. He's just going to have a little business. But at this point, he's using QuickBooks for invoicing. And if we don't want to work with QuickBooks, can we put him on FreshBooks? And can we make that effortless for him? and then he can invoice out of FreshBooks because that's what it's known for,
Mhm.
I thought
Yeah,
that's where I was going with, that's kind of-
FreshBooks is probably a really good fit for him because FreshBooks does proposals and estimates right in the app. And then something like construction, he might have to give a proposal or an estimate before he starts the work. We also have a project. You can do projects right inside of FreshBooks. I think for the type of client that you're speaking of, that would be a good fit. And I will tell you when it's not a good fit. So I'm not just trying to bullshit you. I
Yeah.
do think that that's probably a good fit. Time tracking in the US, we don't have payroll inside of FreshBooks. So if he wants to have employees, we have a Gusto integration. So he can have his employees in Gusto, paid in Gusto, and have the integration with FreshBooks that way.
Why do you think there's so many accounting tech in Canada?
I feel like it's ahead of the curve a little bit ahead of us. A lot of tech is coming from you guys.
Yeah, you know what? I can't say that I have the true answer for this, and there's probably like a lot of things.
Just make up a really awesome answer.
I think there's probably a whole number of reasons that all ladder up to it. It's like, why did some of the things over the past year and a half transpire the way they did? It's like a number of things that aligned in order for that to happen. I do think that I alluded to it at the beginning, but tried to tiptoe around it also carefully as well, talking to two Americans, and you have American listeners and I have American partners inside of the partner program.
So you can talk shit about America. It's fine.
Yeah, you can't touch it. 90% of our listeners are in America.
I'm moving to Denmark.
Yeah.
You'll be Danish soon. Maybe not.
I'm getting sad about America.
Europe. Well, you can move to Canada.
Yeah.
I do think that we are maybe a little bit more forward thinking in some areas. I mean, we even thinking about Xero and how aggressively they've been in Canada relative to the US. There has to be some reason for that. And you can kind of read between the lines in some cases, I think. Here in Calgary, we're an oil and gas city, but yet we've also got some great software engineers coming out of some of the educational programs here. And also then investors who are maybe a little tired of investing in oil and gas. So I think there's an alignment of a number of different things that come together to create software and the software industry. And then there's naturally a bit of like organic learning from one another and seeing somebody else locally have success with something. I mean, locally in terms of in Canada, that is inspiring and motivating. If every fintech company in Canada failed, then either unless you got somebody who's like, I'm going to be the first to be successful, or you go along with it.
Sounds like America.
Wow,
first.
somebody else did it. Somebody else was successful. So why can't we be too? Why does something need to be developed in Silicon Valley in order to be successful? That's not the case anymore. So I think there's a whole host of reasons that all ladder up to the actual evolution of what's transpired and accounting software being more prevalent in Canada than it certainly ever has been before.
Well, how about let's kind of talk about, you had a firm, and then what happened to the firm, after that? So you went software.
Yep. So at the time that I came over to FreshBooks, I then backed out from the firm at that point. Like I stepped back from that firm entirely. My former business partner still has that firm. It's still a small firm here in Calgary. I knew I wouldn't be able to wear that many hats successfully.
Sure.
And so I took steps back from that entirely.
Okay. Do you regret it sometimes, or was it obviously it was a choice, but
yeah, I won't say I regret it, but I do sometimes have the inkling to set up another accounting firm, mainly just to be honest, to put some of my current ideas that I have today that I didn't have 2 years ago through the ringer on my own accord, rather than, asking one of our partners, can you build your entire bookkeeping or accounting practice on FreshBooks?
what about FreshBooks accounting firm, or accounting firm, FreshBooks? 3 weeks.
We are not an accounting firm. We have no aspirations to have an accounting firm within FreshBooks. I'm talking about my own little side aspirations. We are not an accounting firm.
So this is interesting. So if you were starting
live.
So if you were starting a firm, what would you do different? Like, what are your ideas?
right now I would put it through the ringer and do what I believe is possible in terms of setting up an entire firm around FreshBooks and the tech stack at FreshBooks and serving the type of client that is a good fit for FreshBooks, which, to be honest, is a simple client. Like, it's not manufacturing, it's not heavy e-commerce, it's not these complex types of clients. It's pretty straightforward clients when you think about the whole realm of industries or clients that you can get into. And so I would set up an entire practice around having a FreshBooks focused firm and serving those types of clients and really putting some of my strategies and my ideas through the ringer and a test without me dragging another partner through my ideas.
I plan on doing that with my firm. I want to split off my firm into two firms, a Xero firm and a FreshBooks firm. I want to have the lower margin clients, the lower level.
He's
easier
committing.
clients
He's committing
in
to
one.
FreshBooks firm. This is amazing.
I am committing to it. I want to do this, and I feel like I've talked about it before, but either way, like the lower level, the lower margin clients that are easier to upkeep, easier to pick up. You don't have to do a lot of work for those FreshBooks. And then
Right.
Xero's going to keep growing. Xero can do what it does. We already have it.
Mhm.
Our whole firm was on Xero. I just feel like I need an excuse to get distracted and do something else. And I feel like FreshBooks is that good excuse to do something, build something else. Because it was fun to build the firm around Xero, but now it's built and now I got nothing to do. I'm bored.
Well, yeah, I'll give you my ideas, Scott, and you can put them through the ringer, and then I don't have to send up another accounting firm.
Well,
I
you can go to market after, I'll be your beta.
All right. I do think it'd be, and this is what I'd like to put through the ringer, is I think it will be easier to scale that FreshBooks focused part of your firm than it will be to scale other parts.
Yeah. Our industry vertical has been software. It's not been actual industries. And I think that's my next one. All of the accountant listeners listening to this podcast, go check out FreshBooks, right? That's our little ad. That's my push.
Okay, so tell us, before we go, give us one big piece of advice. If you could give one piece of advice to our accounting listeners.
To our 90% US accounting listeners, plus Canada and Australia. Actually, there's not a lot
And
of
our one
UK
listener in
listeners.
Germany.
Yeah. We might have
Must
like
be
one or
lost.
two listeners in Germany.
Is that you, that listener in Germany, that you just have a
Yeah, he's got Ackman's got an IP
IP.
address there. He's
Yeah.
pinging back. Yeah,
He's already set up.
oh, wow, we got another country, and he's just got his little IP addresses that.
This is smart. You should do that. One piece of advice. Oh gosh, how do you narrow it into one? I mean, we've been doing so much talk about technology, and I actually want to step away from that in my advice. And that advice is to surround yourself with some people that aren't fake communities. And by fake communities, I just mean that although we're much more collaborative than we've ever been before, we still sometimes have a wall up or some guards up around us that doesn't let us be truly vulnerable and open and honest inside our relationships. I think that there's value in finding even one person in this industry that is not your business partner or your employee that you can truly confide in an honest and open way and collaborate with. And the reason that I say that is because I learned so much coming out from under our rock inside of our accounting firm and starting to talk to other accounting professionals, and how there was more collaboration than I ever realized, but that sometimes it's still very surface level, and that there's hesitation for people to actually put up their hand and say, I don't understand. I don't know. I don't want to be the first one and only one to maybe sound like I'm unaware or uninformed or not as advanced. And I think that's
how I
getting in
feel
our
all
way.
the time on this podcast.
We look at one another's firms and think like, wow, that person's doing so great. And I even had a conversation with Kenji about this probably a year or so ago, about how so many firms just come across as like they know what they're doing. And what that does for the accounting professionals who are not at a spot in their journey where they feel like they've got it figured out, they feel like everybody else does and they don't. And I think that that's in the way, and that the collaboration could exponentially enhance everybody's experience and everybody's learning and the evolution of the industry and the services we provide to clients. If we got rid of that, if we actually somehow got in collaboration with people that were just really honest. And social media is a blessing and a curse. Social media can come across like I've got everything figured out. And that can be really intimidating to somebody who's just starting out, maybe just went through a business failure, maybe is trying to get their feet under them, especially this past year and a half when things have been so challenging and so tiring. That I think that that's one piece that I would share is that find that person. Who's your person inside of the accounting industry that you can truly buddy up with? And some people have done this really, really well, and others just haven't found that person. And I think being a little bit more vulnerable and less perfect online would benefit all of us.
So to all of the
I
listeners,
love that.
if you
That was
need,
so good.
tell us what you don't know. I wrote that down. I'm just that every guest we have, tell us what you don't know, and we'll talk about everything you don't know because they're
Yeah,
so
don't-
impressive. They're talking about.
Don't
everything
assume
they
any
know.
firm knows anything. That's, They
Tell
don't.
us what you don't.
We don't know anything.
Yeah. Well, I definitely don't know everything or anything. And
You
every
bullshitted
day-
half this call. It was amazing.
No, I honestly, this call, I felt very, it's like, no, I felt like this was in my helm or my realm. I was going to say realm, but then I said helm. I felt like this was in my wheelhouse. I don't really know much and I'm learning a lot. Talk about what you don't know, even to your peers, and don't be ashamed of that. I feel like that I've gotten that feedback too when I talk to people and I have no clue what you just said and I don't understand. And then they'll explain it and they'll be super helpful. So, don't be afraid. Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Yeah,
Wait,
it was part of the reason why I set up the Women in Accounting mentorship platform is because you just
talk
need
about
to
that.
be able to be.
What's the platform that it's on? Clubhouse. Talk about your Clubhouse a little bit. Just
Clubhouse, I just do weekly calls, Women in Accounting speaker series, where it's inviting a woman from our industry to just take the mic and just share. That's the Clubhouse calls, and then I also have the Women in Accounting online platform, which is designed to match women in the industry inside of mentorship relationships to find their person so that they can just be really, really, really vulnerable and not feel like I'm the only one who's not doing this right, but rather have somebody that can really help support them in their growth inside of this industry.
I would have talked about that the whole hour. Can I have some links? Just send to me. I'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Yeah, they can go into womenaccounting.online for the mentorship platform and program. And myself, I'm on all the socials. I'm out there. So LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram.
Just look for Twyla. First name
Facebook.
only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll
Like I
find
said,
me.
you have a name for social media. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
What about if
do have
you're an
a name.
accountant and you want to get started on FreshBooks? Where do you go?
Yeah. Great call. So freshbooks.com/accountant.
I got to do one push for reviews. Please leave us a review, at least 5 stars, and good or bad, just leave us 5 stars and write whatever you want on there, and I will respond to it probably.
Twyla, this has been amazing. We will have you
Thank you.
again to talk about the women in accounting because that is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much for
Thank
joining
you
us
so
today.
much.
Thanks, guys.